Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Monday, May 6th, 2024. I am Dave Biddle. Very happy joined by Dan Rubin. A lot to get into on today's show. We're going to do a deep dive on the Buckeyes running backs. It's a really, really talented room. I know I'm not breaking news there. They have the best 1-2 punch in the country. Again, not breaking news there. Is there even a close second? We're going to get into all that. What do we expect out of James Peoples, Sam Williams-Dixon, TC Caffey, and the whole gang? We're going to get into that. Dan's going to share some of his vibes on Jason Moore, who Larry Johnson referred to as the ideal 3-tech in our defense. For a guy that hasn't played a snap yet for the Buckeyes, redshirt freshman, to say his stock's on the rise is a vast understatement. So Dan's going to share his vibes on Jason Moore. Then we're going to talk safeties in the portal. Ohio State is kicking the tires on a couple of safeties in the portal. You're probably thinking, what? Well, they only have 5 scholarship safeties on the roster right now. That will raise to 6 when Roker joins next month, but they want more than 6 safeties on scholarship. They do have Inky Jones as well. So we're going to talk safeties in the portal, and then Dan's going to tell you what you need to know about what was a big recruiting weekend for the Buckeyes. Before we get to that, I'll tell you guys about Factor Meals. Happy to welcome them back as one of the sponsors of our show. They do a great job. With 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you'll always have new flavors to explore at Factor Meals. Crush your wellness goals this May with dietitian-approved meals and ingredients that you can trust. Make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. Treat yourself to restaurant-quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. Okay, now I'm hungry. Filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. That's awesome. Keep chicken time. Keep kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are ready in 2 minutes. No shopping, no prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. 2 minutes, fresh. Pop them in your microwave. High quality. Fantastic. Head to factormeals.com/bucknuts50. Use code bucknuts50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code bucknuts50 at factormeals.com/bucknuts50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. And this isn't in here, but I'm going to throw in just while you're getting all the great food, throw in some smoothies too. Their smoothies are fantastic, as we've told you before. So there you go. Factor Meals. Happy to welcome them back, and good deal you guys can get there. 50% off. Then 20% off your next one. So pretty cool. All right. Dan Rubin, is there even a close – I need it's not even out yet. I need my new Phil Steele to really crack down on this. Like, is there even a close second in college football as far as best 1-2 punch in the country? It's just – I'm still pinching myself that the Buckeyes have both TreVeyon Henderson and Quinshon Judkins on this team, Dan Rubin.
Yeah, I think that would be very difficult because I have not seen a ranking of – college football running backs from anyone really that doesn't have Trey and Quinshon in the top 3. So if you've got 2 of the top 3, the kid Ali, I'm sorry, the last name escapes me, the kid from Oklahoma State, and that strikes me as just journalists, air quotes, looking at results and statistics from last year and just pitching them forward and looking at the guy who had the most yards. Dave, I told you this before and during the process of adding Quinshon Judkins. It was incredible to add Caleb Downs. I'll say that in terms of just a transfer, in terms of the quality of the transfer, but that made sense because Nick Saban left. Quinshon Judkins literally fell from the sky. And I'm telling you this, this is not hyperbole. I watch college football for 2 reasons, primarily to watch the Buckeyes win, and secondarily to scout for the Cowboys. They don't pay me, Dave, but I do it anyway. It's a labor of love. Maybe we'll see. But Judkins would have been after this past season, he would have been my number 1 pick. And my one concern with him was too many carries. I believe he's combined has the most carries of anyone in the country the last 2 years.
Yep.
So what would you want to see? Well, we want to see him reduce his carries without, reducing the quality of play. Okay. He's done that. And the idea of getting a transfer like this, we're just very lucky. It's a sign of the times. The devaluing of the running back by the NFL has made this possible. There is no way that the number 1 or number 2 and 3 or however combination in the country would join together in the past. You would think you're losing carries to the guy. Now, because they don't want so much tread off your tires, both guys are going to join together, and I think they're going to benefit from being in the same backfield. I don't think anyone would have any issue with their carries going down. Like I said, in terms of NFL draft potential, I think it's going to help. So, like I said, Caleb Downs was an incredible addition. I think you can make a very strong argument. Greatest transfer you could possibly get because he was the best freshman defensive player. I mean, I guess you could go out and say, who was there? John Elway after his freshman year, maybe. But the Quinshon Judkins addition is just addition by addition. So it's truly incredible. And then when you put in context what we've been through over the last X number of years when it comes to crunch time and, a playing for the national championship against like 9 first-round draft picks with a walk-on wide receiver at running back, not ideal. So, yeah, I mean, I couldn't be happier. It really is almost unfair.
It is. And then, we'll get to it. They don't have a tremendous amount of depth. And like I say, I still have PTSD from the Peach Bowl a couple years ago. But I tell you what, I mean, the best 1-2 punch in the country. And again, I don't even know if there's a close second. And then I like I like James Peoples before spring ball. I liked, I loved his film. I loved that he played against top competition down there in Texas. And I think, as we know, that's one of those positions true freshmen can come in and play, especially when he's got spring under his belt. I also thought Sam Williams-Dixon looked good. Those are your other 2 scholarship guys. TC Caffey probably will be bumped up to scholarship. Regardless, as a third-year sophomore, he's going to be in the mix. So, I don't know. I'd like to see one more guy in there. They are bringing in – there is one more preferred walk-on coming in June. Cisse, who was one of the finalists for Mr. Football here in Ohio. But, with that 1-2 punch, if they can just stay reasonably healthy, then you got James Peoples, Sam Williams-Dixon, and TC Caffey. It's an impressive group. Carlos Lachlan, here you go. You walked in, you inherited the best running back room in the country, my friend.
Yeah, we'll talk more about Carlos Lachlan tomorrow with Bill Kurlick and Mark Porter on the recruiting side. Every time I turn the site on, he's offered another running back. So we definitely got to get a sense of that. Yeah, I mean, if you were going to look at what your concerns are about the group, it would start with TreVeyon, the fact that he has not consistently been able to stay healthy. There are plenty of times, I don't know who else goes through this because I don't really follow the running back depth chart quite as intensely at other schools, but there'd be times in the middle of the week we'd find out a guy was injured and I would literally have no idea why. It was a crapshoot every week who the 3 active backs would be. That has not been an issue thus far with Quinshon Judkins. Like we said, he's had the most carries in the country over the last 2 years, and he's done that in the Southeastern Conference. One would assume that's about as tough as it can get. So injuries are a concern no matter what. Keep in mind, if you want to talk about the most hope, that's a Freudian slip, high-profile defection, it would be Dallin Hayden. And I spent too many weekend days last year waiting for Dallin Hayden to get in the game, and he never got in anyway. So I can't really get that bummed about that one.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I keep saying in a perfect world, I'd love to get a scholarship guy here just for depth who's a solid guy. But, I mean, if you're that player, whoever that player would be, do you want to come here knowing you might be 6th? Are you sure you're better than TC Caffey, who's right now 5th? Or if you say TC Caffey is 4th and Sam Williams-Dixon is 5th, are you better than Sam Williams-Dixon? Probably not. So we'll see. But again, I know it was 1 year, but man, they were down to Xavier Johnson as the tailback against Georgia, and they came this close to beating Georgia and basically winning the national championship. But I don't want to talk too much about that because it'll piss me off. Another thing I want to talk about, I was kicking this around, Dan. We've seen good tailback tandems at Ohio State before, but nothing like this. Again, this is on paper. It has to materialize. Like we've seen things like Antonio Pittman, junior year, Beanie Wells, freshman. But Pitt was still the starter, the 1,000-yard guy, and Beanie was the freshman, still kind of knocking the rust off, had some fumble problems. Great against Michigan that year in that huge game. But still, these guys are like on equal footing, and they're tremendous. Like, we've seen good tailback tandems at Ohio State, but it's never been a senior and a junior who each have 2,700 career rushing yards. It's insane. So, like, I was going back thinking about some of the good. I mean, even though Byers got hurt, like Keith Byers and Vince Workman, going way back then. I mean, just thinking about some of these great tailback tandems that we've had at Ohio State, but nothing like this. Nothing like this.
Well, we got to see the results for sure, but I go back to what I said before.
I take it back. There you go. I take it back. See, this is before my time.
Exactly.
Archie Johnson. Yes. Sorry. Thank you, Larry. There you go.
Dave, I learned about Pete Johnson on a football card when he was playing for the Bengals with Booby Clark. I don't know how I remember that. Anyway, 46 and 42 with their numbers. I have a sickness. Like we said before, you couldn't have had this in the past. This combination of running backs is a function of modern football. It's a function of the NIL. It's a function of, like we said, the running backs. Who was the first running back picked in the draft?
Dude in the second round, right?
Wasn't it Jonathan Brooks?
I think so, yeah.
And he was in the mid-40s.
Yeah.
I mean, the Cowboys drafted Zeke, I think, 4th overall X number of years ago. That's not going to happen again. Now, you can have a year when you get a Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs in there. And look, we may have them both on our team right now. We almost had both of them on our team, I might add. But that, you want to get really depressed. Good Lord. I don't want to get on an Alfred tangent here. But like I said, there would have been no way in the past Archie and Pete would have split their dollars and gone elsewhere, as heart-wrenching as that may have sounded if the NIL was in effect. So, no, this is a current modern football phenomenon that we are benefiting from because we're at the top of the food chain, and it's good to be king.
I feel bad I forgot Archie, and I got to go over and get my Archie bobblehead. I feel bad that I forgot Archie and Pete, even though it's no, I said this before my time. That's no excuse. I always say that. It's like, oh, before your time. Like, if you're into baseball, have you not heard of Babe Ruth? Probably was before your time, right? You've probably heard of Babe Ruth and know all about him, right? So my bad. I know that Archie and Pete are, and I can't claim that I'm a mini Ohio State football historian and just blow that one. So my apologies. But I tell you what, this running back core is just, I'm so excited about it. All right. I'm curious to get your Jason Moore vibes. Let's switch some gears. Jason Moore, Larry Johnson came out and said he is the ideal 3 tech in our defense. If you're Jason Moore and you're sitting there thinking, I wonder what Larry Johnson thinks of me, and then he says that, like, oh, that sounds pretty good. Now, I'm sure that Larry has told him that behind closed doors as well. But for Larry to say that as a redshirt freshman that's never taken a snap speaks volumes to me. So I'm pretty excited about Jason Moore, and he's a backup. This D-line is crazy.
Yeah, so last week we were going crazy on recruiting with Mark and Bill, so we didn't have a chance to talk about the team as much, and you guys chatted about it several times. So as you know, Dave, I almost called in and interrupted. That would really make people happy. But I chose to save my interruptions for today. But everyone has like that guy on the team when they've been asked, who's the guy you expect to surprise? But I don't know if it's going to be a surprise. But in my opinion, and this is just me being hyperbolically motivated and geeking out on my squad, but when you talk about the guy who at the end of this season coming up, I think is going to be discussed in more glowing terms than, relative to what they are now, I do believe it's going to be Jason Moore. Like, I would go out on a limb here and say this. I think of everybody we have on the defensive line, he'll be the best pro. I get a vision of guys sometimes, and I can't get it out of my head. Some scouts, I'm not claiming I'm a scout by any stretch, don't like, Dave, and you know this, the comparison game. Some scouts don't like to say, hey, he reminds me of, because it always ends up, you have a good joke about this. It's like, hey, it's Dane Sanzenbacher again. I'm just kidding. Or everyone, it's Orlando Pace. So I'm not saying that, but I do get a vibe sometimes of a guy. And I've actually known about Jason a little bit longer than most because, once again, he checks my DMV pedigree. He went to DeMatha. I'm telling you, once you go to DeMatha as an athlete, you've already been, it's like going to the Ivy League and academics. They've already cleared out the riffraff. You're up in the X percentile already. Then you consider the fact his older brother, and I've said this before, if you guys remember watching Villanova in the tournament, the dude who blew his Achilles during the game, that was his older brother. He was all-Met player of the year as a senior at DeMatha, okay? That means on defense, he was the best player in the DMV. When they say the DMV, they say all-Met, all-Metropolitan. That's really the biggest honor you can get in the area. Here's who's on second team. Nicholas Harbor, Dylan Stewart, Desmond Umeozulu. Second, they were all not player of the year. Nick Harbor led United States college football players at defensive end and snaps last year at South Carolina. He's not better than Jason Moore. In the past, guys who have been not player of the year, Chris Jenkins, Mitchell Melton, Tyleek Williams, when Brian Brzee got it. That's 1 year. So the player of the year tends to be an incredibly a stud. Then you talk about the qualifications. The guy he reminds me of is Richard Seymour, who was a defensive tackle, defensive end. If you go look up his combine at Georgia, 6'6", 295 when he was at the combine. Jason Moore is 6'6", 305 right now. And when he says the perfect three technique, it's generally considered that Seymour was that guy. I think that's the mold when Larry Johnson is thinking about is that guy. I just think we have slept on how dominant this guy has a chance to be. They redshirted him. They didn't want to burn any of that time even. He's listed as a freshman. Some guys didn't get that luxury. So when you're talking about guys who at this time next year, when we start going, draft picks and such, Jason Moore, I'm telling you, will be at the top of that list. It's almost like he's like a well-kept secret right now. They don't want to let it get out.
Right.
I know Larry said that, but we haven't seen him. You haven't seen him go. And I know I've never been happier with the first and second four of the defensive line. It's unheard of. In terms of depth, Dave, if you took their second team defensive line, where would it rank in the Big Ten?
It'd be right up there. I mean,
behind Michigan's starting defensive line, maybe.
Michigan,
who else?
Definitely with Michigan having those two tackles. I mean, they lost Chris Jenkins. I think he was their third best defensive tackle on their team last year with those two sophomore beasts that they have with Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham, who are now coming back as juniors. That's pretty – I know that's a bold statement that Chris Jenkins was their third best defensive tackle, but I feel strongly he was. So, yeah, Michigan – Ohio State will have the best. Let's say you take – with their starters and third team, they would be the best, I think. Then it'd be Michigan, and then Ohio State second team. Because you're talking about, and we had somebody like Chad, was it Chad? Somebody like mentioned this. Yeah, Chad. I agree with this toe. I've talked a lot about Caden McDonald, and he uses your phrase, Chad Stryker, on the YouTube. The tube says Moore and McDonald going to blow stuff up. They're dudes.
Pedigree.
They are dudes. Dan's former phrase that he used to love is werewolves. There are a couple of werewolves in there. And we're not even talking about Hero Canoe. So let's talk about him. I mean, he's in there as well. They've got three backup D tackles that are all going to play a lot that I love in Jason Moore, Caden McDonald, and Hero Canoe. Tyrone Malone is like sixth on the depth chart, and he's going to be a senior, former high four-star recruit. It's crazy, man. All right, let's talk safety.
Yeah, just to finish with Jason Moore. Tyleek Williams was honorable mention, all-Met. Honorable mention. Jason Moore was defensive player of the year. Now, they were wrong to make Tyleek honorable mention, but I'm just trying to give people an understanding of, I think we sometimes lose guys on the roster who didn't have much fanfare during their commitment because they kept it tight. They came here. There's no social media silliness. There's just hard work, and all of a sudden you see him, you're like, who the is that? Jason Moore.
Yeah, from everything you just articulated, it sounds like if you're one of the top runners up for that award, you're in for a really good career, let alone if you are the player of the year in the DMV. So good stuff there. Good story. Man, it's crazy. We're talking about the backup D tackles, and we're extremely bullish on them. All right, let's talk safeties in the portal. People are like, what? Why is Ohio State looking at safeties in the portal? Well, because they only have 5 scholarship safeties on the roster right now. They'll have 6 when Roker enrolls next month. Inky Jones, Mika pointed this out earlier, and I totally agree. I think you're going to get your wish, Mika. Inky Jones is scholarship level player. He reminds me of the defensive version, although Xavier Johnson did play a little defense. He played corner one year when they needed depth at corner. We'd be out there, and Xavier Johnson would be making plays. I'm talking like 2-3 years ago before people really knew he wasn't. Every time, it's like number 10's out there making plays every time we're out there. Inky Jones is the defensive version of that. On while you're like, who's 32? Oh, yeah, Inky. Is that Jack Tatum? No, that's Inky Jones, number 32 out there. Seeing a Buckeye wearing 32 playing safety is cool. Tatum technically was a corner at Ohio State. Let's be real. Yeah, he was a corner. Tatum was a safety, knocking people's heads off. But Inky Jones turned down a lot of D1 scholarship offers to come here as a preferred walk-on from Steubenville, and now as a junior. So that gives you really an extra scholarship guy. But even with Inky Jones being a really good walk-on, they still want more depth there. And two guys that they're kicking the tires on big time, Jaden Mangum, transferring from Michigan State. He's from Michigan. He will be a junior. He's from Franklin, Michigan. The problem is Michigan, the Wolverines, they need a starter. Rod Moore, they already lost guys back there. Rod Moore was coming back to be a starter. He tore his ACL, so Michigan needs a starter. They're going after Jaden Mangum as well. So if you're Jaden Mangum, you know you're not coming here as even a starter. There's no way you're coming here as a starter. You know that with Caleb Downs and Ransom. So, but we'll see. We'll see. He was a 4-star in high school, so Jaden Mangum is a name to keep in mind. And then this one's intriguing here. Cameron Broussard from Sacramento State. Yes, Sacramento State, 6'3", 200. He will be a senior. First team All Big Sky. Maybe you could convince a kid like that, come to the big time. But Michigan's in on him too. He's got some. It's not like he's under the radar. I mean, these are two of the top safeties, if not the top two safeties in the portal right now. So I find that interesting, Dan. I wonder if they're going to get either one of these kids, because it's almost like with running back, what we're talking about. You know you're coming here as a depth piece. You know you are. So are they really going to get either one of these kids? I don't know, but it is interesting. They're kicking the tires. They do want to add a scholarship safety if possible.
I'm speculating here, Dave, but the Mangum one doesn't feel realistic to me at all, just because he wouldn't start here and he wouldn't get. I mean, it's a tough depth chart, and like you said, if he has another option to stay closer to home and play at Michigan, that would make more sense. The other guy makes a little more sense to me, just because it'd be such an increase in level. He might be thinking for exposure value that it'd be a good move. We'll say this: the player who holds the record for most interception return for a touchdown ever in the NFL. You know, that record was just set this past year by the Dallas Cowboys' own Deron Bland from Sacramento State. So it can be done. But I don't have a deep scouting report on either dude. Like I said,
that's what the gene is for.
Yeah, depth. You're looking at depth. I do think it's been interesting, though, that our guy Josh Payne, there hasn't been the mass exodus or in the transfer portal the second time around. I think his people are solid. Also, if you think about it, the food chain ends at some point. You know what I'm saying? You reach a level where you can't just transfer and walk in and start. That's different. Think about this for a second. To transfer to Ohio State, most people transfer for more playing time. Wouldn't you agree with that? It'd be very hard to crack the depth chart, man. Who are you? Like, who's out there on the point to get to start at Ohio State, or even to get in the mix? Like, believe me, I want Ozzie Trujillo to join the transfer portal as much as the next guy. But when you look at, like, for example, the guys that are coming in there, this is not the type of person who steps in day one and can contribute at Ohio State. That's a very high bar.
Yeah, I'll be surprised if they get either one of these kids, but Cameron Broussard's the one that piques my interest for some reason. The kid from Sacramento State. I like his size too, 6'3", 200. Again, he was first team All Big Sky, very productive. So we'll see. That'd be great getting him for depth. But again, at least they have Inky Jones, so I think they're going to probably bump up to scholarship. They have room to bump these kids up to scholarship. You know, TC Caffey, Jones, and there's going to be others as well. You know, Pat Gerd, and there will be others. Jaden Fielding's not even technically on scholarship yet. I've been told he will be. He's another one they're going to bump up to scholarship. I'm sure they're bringing in the punter from Australia, McLarty. He'll be on scholarship. And I think all of these guys, when they get to Columbus, maybe I'll have them all over and we can have some Omaha steaks. Omaha steaks. How about that? How about that? We'll get them some Omaha steaks and just, I tell you what, they got this. We're still going to tell you about this Burger Perfection Flight. I mean, these are the best burgers, period. Okay, nothing says summer like the taste of a juicy, tender burger grilled to perfection. And nobody does Burger Perfection quite like Omaha Steaks. Right now, you can taste Burger Perfection for yourself with the Burger Perfection Flight. This exclusive package includes 20 of their mouth-watering steak burgers, 4 each of their pure ground filet mignon burgers, New York strip burgers, ribeye burgers, brisket burgers, and sirloin burgers. Okay, now I'm starving. That's just too good. Filet mignon burgers, New York strip burgers, ribeye burgers, brisket burgers, and sirloin burgers. Yes, I'll have all 5. Thank you. Omaha Steaks Pure Ground Burgers deliver an explosive combination of tenderness, juiciness, and unmatched quality. And right now you can experience the Burger Perfection Flight for just $79.99 when you go to omahasteaks.com. Get ready for grilling season with the Burger Perfection Flight for just $79.99 when you shop omahasteaks.com. That's 20 mouth-watering pure ground burgers for just $79.99. Might I recommend, you might not even need them with these burgers, might I recommend the Omaha Steaks seasoning too? Just the Omaha Steaks seasoning. Basically got garlic, salt, and paprika in it. It's fantastic. They have their own personal seasoning. Add that on. It's top-notch seasoning. Again, you might not really need it with these burgers, but I like a little seasoning. All right, here we go. I like a little recruiting. We're not going to do a deep dive on recruiting. Dan, it was a big recruiting weekend. Tell the good people what they need to know, maybe some quick hitters about recruiting this past weekend.
Yeah, we will be all over this tomorrow in super detail with the Dean and the Grand Poobah, of course. But some big visitors. I would keep it locked into Bucknuts now. We have yet to get the update on David Sanders, who was here this weekend. #1 offensive lineman in the country. Pretty much there you have it. We've talked plenty here about one coach on the staff who could really do with a big-time commitment. Getting the #1 offensive lineman in the country would certainly ease probably the sleep time for our guy who coaches big guys protecting other large humans. So I don't want to mention any names, but we need to get that one done. Other guys on campus, our favorite Ohio safety, Trey McNutt, who alumni and, according to the 24/7, the composite rankings, the #1 safety in the country. So someone definitely to keep an eye on.
Father was a Heisman candidate.
Mother was a track star. So the total package, mother was a track star is a theme here with this class.
I hear mom was a track star, father played football. I think Ezekiel Elliott. I have this Ohio State. I'm pointing. I have this Ohio State calendar, and he is Mr. May. He's the one they have on my Ohio State. Yeah, I still have a regular calendar. I like having a regular calendar. And Ezekiel Elliott's on there. Mom, track star. Dad, good football player. That equals awesome running back, apparently.
And defensive back. You just described the Sanchez's as well. The Sanchez's as well. Perfect combo.
There you go.
Also on campus. And this is another theme that's been developing. Let's call this serendipity. I think you guys discussed this on the show. Were you the one who did you have a show recently where you asked? I think you asked Jonah, or J-Book, as the masses call him, what we should do for Nick Saban for retiring when he did. I'm telling you, guy gets a ring. There's no question. I'll chip in for it. It's ridiculous because it's not even just Julian Sayin and Caleb Downs, which is like I have a joke here, Dave, I want to use because I missed out on using a joke over the weekend. And I'm saying, do you remember the movie Animal House?
Of course.
Okay. Do you know the scene where it's the
oh God,
it's the marching scene at the end, and a young man is in there looking at a Playboy magazine? That was Quinshon Judkins. He's just looking at the magazine, and all of a sudden the girl flies through the window. He looks, thank you, God. That was Quinshon Judkins. We were looking for another running back, also just flying through the window. Not even Nick Saban retiring, but I digress. Nick Saban retiring has also opened up the state of Alabama for recruiting purposes. Naeem Offord, the other cornerback we have in the class, committed. Do you think we would have gotten in there without him? We already know Caleb came because Tricky Nick bolted for TV.
Julian Sayin, Yeah, Julian Sand, who, if it's not Tavian St. Clair, I think Julian Sand's going to eventually be the starting quarterback here. He wouldn't be here if Saban didn't retire. It's crazy.
They're also recruiting Zion Grady, an Alabama defensive end who was here this weekend. And then
like
Malik Autry, everyone, because we're a bunch of old people. Malik Autry, defensive tackle from Alabama, committed to Auburn, visited here this weekend. So this is not only our guys coming up to visit now, like Dwayne and I spent, the late, great Dwayne Long and I spent hours talking about trying to get someone from Louisiana or Alabama who weighed over 310 pounds to come north. Never going to happen. Now it seems like it really will happen. And I think we have to thank Nick Saban for, I thank the college football world for moving fast enough that Nick Saban wanted to hop off the train. Because like you said, Caleb Downs and Julian Sand, in terms of value as a football player, you can't really get more value than a 5-star quarterback or the best defensive player in the country last time I checked. So long way to get to the point that recruiting has been incredible. Also, one thing I want to add, they offered, shocker, an Ohioan linebacker, Jacoby Clapper out of St. X. We'll have all this coverage complete because, Mark's been on this tour where I can't even list you. Every single school in the state, big schools, is having college coaches come through there. It starts at like 6:30 in the morning, goes till 5:30 at night, and they've done it for pretty much every conference. Last week we talked about Northeast Ohio. They did Southwest Ohio, Dave, down here in our stomp. So today I believe they're in Columbus, in Bill Kurlick's hood. So we'll have a complete and total wrap up of everything, where it stands with Decorian Moore, the receiver. I saw Miss Sanchez say that she hung out with his mom at the state track meet in Texas. So we will be everywhere for that, and there's plenty to talk about.
And I do know, Monica Daniels, Paris Johnson's mom, and her husband, Mike Daniels, they moved to Columbus, not like last week. They've lived here now for a few months, and they're helping. Like when these offensive linemen visit, Monica and Mike are helping the Buckeyes recruit. And, that's a great asset. She's become really a great ambassador for Ohio State. I love it. You think like when the parents of these Ohio State stars, when their sons leave, you wonder, are they really going to be like super into it still? And Monica's a diehard. She loves Ohio State football, and she's helping out. So every little bit helps. The guys that do the NIL are crushing it. The foundation is just crushing it. Even doing a good job on the basketball front, getting the kid from Duke. That was a good get.
Big time.
They're going to be more athletic. So the foundation is doing a great job, football and basketball. 1870 Society, we're partnered with the foundation, full disclosure for those that don't know, but everybody's pulling in the same direction. We all want the same thing. So 1870 Society is doing a good job. Foundation's doing a great job. I'm happy with everything. So, all right. Moms helping recruit is huge. But Mrs. Sanchez, Monica Daniels, that stuff is huge. That stuff is huge. The coaches do a pretty damn good job, to say the least. Mark Pantoni and all the coaches, but having a mom like Monica out there and Deetra, that really helps. All right, great stuff. Good stuff from Dan Rubin. We bounced around a lot, as we are wont to do. Dan will be with you tomorrow with the all-star recruiting staff that we have with Bill Kurlick and Mark Porter. Looking forward to that tomorrow. Thanks to Dan. Thanks to all of you. Large live audience here. We really appreciate that. Thanks to our live audience. Thanks to everybody who's listening to the show, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Appreciate all of you. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day.